Hey, it's Yay for Yarn, and today I'm going to show you how to bind off part of a row of stitches on your Addi knitting machine. So let's get started. So what we're going to do here is we're going to bind off and eliminate some stitches from one end of the row, and we're going to do this without having to take it all off, bind off some of them and put it back on, or without having to temporarily hold them until you can do something else to finish them up later. So what we're going to be doing is binding off with the crochet hook some stitches at the beginning of a row. So I'm going to show you how we do that. So I'm going to start by beginning this next row. We're going to be going this way. I've already done one here so you can see it. And I bound off 1, 2, 3 stitches. And you can do this on both sides of your flat panel. As long as you're starting at the beginning of a row, you cannot do this at the end of a row, but as long as you're beginning the row, you can do this on either side of your panel. And what we're going to do is I'm going to start working this way to begin my row. I'm going to take the yarn out of the yarn guide, hold it out of the way, and I'm going to bring the needles up. I'm going to bind off 4 stitches at the beginning of this row. So I'm going to bring those needles up and let them continue to come up and drop down until 4 of those needles have dropped down. The 4th one doesn't have to drop down all the way if you don't want it to, but you need them to be low enough that you can pick them up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a loom pick. You really definitely need one of those for any kind of stitch manipulation. You're going to pick it up. I'm going to insert my crochet hook into that stitch from front to back, so from the outside of the machine towards the center of the machine. And I'm going to catch the yarn, the working yarn, with my hook and pull it through the loop on my hook. That's as though we were knitting that stitch. Now I'm going to take the next stitch. I'm going to pick it up. Again, insert my crochet hook into it from the outside of the machine towards the inside, and I'm going to kind of slip stitch through it. If you're not a crocheter, that's okay, but basically what we're going to do is put the yarn around the hook of our crochet hook and pull it through both of the loops on our hook. So what we've just done is we have bound off 1 stitch. So now I'm going to pick up another one. I'm going to insert my hook into that loop from the outside of the machine towards the inside. I'm going to again take my yarn and use the crochet hook to pull it through both loops on the hook. So I'm just going to rotate my machine a little bit, and I'm going to pick up the next one. So what we've done here is you can see I've got 3 columns of stitches. The first 2 have had their top stitch folded over this way, and this second column's loop that would have come up from here is over top of the 3rd one. So technically we've bound off 2 stitches here. And then we've got this one that is still on the hook, and it corresponds with this column of stitches. So we have not bound off this column of stitches yet. So I'm going to pick up the next one. Going to insert my hook into it from the outside of the machine towards the inside. I'm going to take the yarn, wrap it around the hook, and I'm going to pull it through all the loops on my hook. There should always be 2 loops on your hook, and you're going to pull it through both of them. So now I've bound off 3 stitches. I'm going to push this one a little further so I can pick it up, but we're going to put this one back on in just a second because this is my 4th one. So I'm going to pick it up, insert my hook into it, yarn over and pull that yarn through both loops on my hook. And now I'm going to take the loop on my hook and put it back on that needle because that was my last bound off stitch. So what we've done here is we have bound off this column, this column, this column, and this column, and the loop that is now on there is what used to be the 5th stitch in from the edge. So this loop corresponds with the 5th column of stitches in from the edge. So over here, this is my first one. You might be able to see it a little bit better. I've got 1, 2, 3 columns that have been bound off, and then that fourth one is where my final loop came out of that I put back on the needle. So I bound off 3 stitches here. Now one thing you want to keep in mind is that this fabric does have some stretch in it, so you want to be careful not to do this too tightly because it will inhibit the stretch on that edge. So now that we have bound off those stitches at the beginning of the row, I'm going to sink the needle that loop is on. And then I'm going to insert my yarn back into the yarn guide and knit a few more rows. Now obviously if you were doing this in a project, then you would, do whatever the next step was in your project. I just knit some extra rows to give it some length so you can see what I did better. And I'm going to take this off of the machine so I can show it to you. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of a stretch here to line up those stitches and get them to lay how they naturally want to lay. So here you can see I've done kind of a little stair step thing. So I bound off 3 stitches down here at the beginning of a row. Then I knit several rows and I bound off 4 more stitches. And you can do this on either side of the panel as long as you're beginning a row. So I could have done it on this side as well if I wanted to. So this technique would be something you would normally apply if you need to get rid of more stitches at one edge than what you can do with a decrease. A decrease on the Addi, you can only really do a decrease that will remove 1 stitch at a time. So if you need to get rid of multiple stitches on the beginning of one row, then that would be where you would apply this technique. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, making sure you click the little bell next to the subscribe button to be notified of new videos. Thanks for watching. Bye.